That concludes questions to the Executive Office, and I move to the questions for the Minister of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. I call Leanne Forsyth.
On, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And my first start by saying it's good to be here, and I believe scrutiny of ministers and accountability to the Assembly is vital. Immigration is an accepted matter and a policy area that the UK Government retain exclusive control over. I am, however, aware of the difficulties facing the fishing industry, and I plan to write to the Home Office on the changes and potential impacts for Northern Ireland's agricultural and fisheries sectors. My officials will also continue to work with representatives from Northern Ireland's fishing industry to understand the extent of the impact on our fleet.
Leanne Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for that. Given the urgency of this and the fact that this is affecting the fishing industry on a day-to-day basis, especially in my constituency, in particular Kilkeel Harbour, would the Minister be agreeable to a meeting in the short term with representatives of the fishing industry to have the opportunity to highlight this?
Minister.
I thank the member for her question. I would be delighted to. This Wednesday, I'm also visiting Portavogie Harbour, and on Thursday, I'm provisionally set to meet the Northern Ireland Fishermen's Federation representatives as well, and I look forward to the motion that's in the House on, I think it's understand it's Tuesday. Thank you.
Call Jim Allister.
When it comes to safeguarding the fishing industry, would the Minister agree a good start would be dealing with the outrageous situation whereby fishermen from Northern Ireland who make their catches in British waters cannot land them because they're decreed to be foreign catch? Will they address that issue?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm aware of the issue that the member refers to, and I want to say at this moment to outline my approach in terms of EU exit will be different as Minister to what has went before. I intend to implement the law. To me, respecting the law is important. I believe in upholding the ministerial code in word and deed. I also want to focus upon working with others to find solutions, and on this issue is something I will be focusing on over the time ahead. I am not focused on deliberately enlarging problems. I am focused on solutions. My task at hand, and it's what I intend to do, is to make the job of managing EU exit exceedingly boring. We have had far too much drama. What we need is delivery.
Call John Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and could I say, with your permission at the outset, that it's with absolute pleasure that I welcome the Minister to his new office and to his place today. And can I ask him if he can provide an update on the Migration Advisory Council's ongoing inquiry into the seasonal worker route?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'm very aware of this issue and its impact upon the industry. The Migration Advisory Council announced in March 2023 it would be undertaking a self-commissioned inquiry of the seasonal worker route. My department's officials submitted a response to the call for evidence, and by engaging closely with Northern Ireland stakeholders, significant opportunity has been afforded to local businesses utilising this route and will be part of the review process. This has included supporting them in organising a stakeholder engagement event with Professor Brian Bell in September 2023 and subsequent individual site visits and interviews with MAC officials in January 2024. The Migration Advisory Council have indicated the findings of this inquiry were due to be published in spring 2024, but this may be delayed to the summer given that they are now under time constraints to complete a rapid review of the new immigration shortage list. I will continue to meet and work with representatives from businesses using this visa route to understand their needs. I await publication of the MAC's recommendations and hope this will subsequently allow the Home Office to provide clarity on the future of this visa route post-2024, given our stakeholders the certainty they need.
Call Doug Beattie.
The environmental crime that was committed at Mobuoy is simply appalling. Huge quantities of pollutant waste materials were unlawfully deposited adjacent to the River Fawn, a special area of conservation, and 2 kilometres upstream of Northern Ireland Water's drinking abstraction point. My department is committed to pursuing the perpetrators of this crime through ongoing proceedings, including ensuring that the polluter pays through confiscation under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002 where possible. Safeguarding public health, ensuring safe drinking water and reducing the environmental impact of this crime is paramount. To that end, my officials are delivering a comprehensive environmental monitoring programme. This includes detailed monitoring using international quality standards of on-site groundwater and surface water in partnership with Northern Ireland Water and also the monitoring of river fauna. Quality reports are freely available on the DAERA website, and to date I am advised there has been no adverse impact on the safety of drinking water being supplied from the river fauna. My department appointed an integrated consultancy team to develop a draft optimum remediation strategy in line with best practice. This strategy to deliver long-term remediation of the site is based on the best balance of environmental, social and economic factors. A detailed risk assessment drawn on intensive site investigations and 7 years of monitoring has found the foundation for the development of the remediation strategy. I intend to issue this draft strategy for consultation within the next 2 months. My officials are in regular contact with local stakeholders, including elected and community representatives and young people, to keep them informed and help develop a future site vision to secure a positive environmental outcome for all at the Mobuoy site.
Thank you, and I welcome the Minister to his post. I mean, this is a truly abysmal situation we find ourselves in. 600,000 spent this year already on that. Could the Minister outline how much it's likely to cost going forward and for how long, and will this protect our wild Atlantic salmon waterways, which are in danger of leakage?
To date, my department does not have a cost estimate which has been assessed and approved through the required public finance processes, such as an approved business case. There are several reasons for this. Firstly, my department is continuing to pursue the perpetrators of this environmental crime through ongoing criminal proceedings. Secondly, my department will shortly issue a public consultation on a range of remediation options for the site. The views of stakeholders are hugely important to me, and I want to ensure that those views are taken into account in relation to the remediation options chosen. Hence, it would not be possible to confirm stable costing now. Thirdly, there are a range of approval processes which must be carried out to ensure that any remediation proposals are both technically sound and cost-effective, including consultation with executive colleagues and, most importantly, the Department of Finance in relation to affordability. These processes can only move forward following the results of public consultation. Work has been undertaken by consultants on potential costs and will inform a draft outline business case. I am aware that one of the options contains remediation costs of £107 million, which at a point in time estimate is subject to significant change to the technical development and timescales over which any remediation might take place. I am very conscious the cost could be much more than that. In addition, there is a significant iterative process to review and assess business cases before they are considered by the DAERA Casework Committee, and that has not taken place. There is therefore no agreed preferred option, and there will not be until consultations have been fully completed, and informed by that, updated options are developed and presented for the next stages of scrutiny and approval.
And I'd like to also take the opportunity to welcome the Minister into his position, and certainly I look forward to him working with him as a member of the ERA Committee. And I thank the Minister for outlining the next steps in terms of this remediation project. And is it possible at this stage to give any indicative timescale for any of those steps?
Thank you. I recognise that remediation is expected to take a number of years to complete. An implementation plan and timetable for remediation remains subject to the outcome of upcoming public consultation and also public finance approvals. The public consultation will give all interested parties the opportunity to comment on the draft optimum remediation strategy. In the meantime, the Department will continue its comprehensive environmental monitoring programme. Following consultation, responses will be considered and my Department will determine any necessary amendments for the draft strategy. As I move away from this, I would say that I visited the site a number of years ago. I know the concerns in the community in relation to this. I know that we need to move in relation to this, but we need to do it correctly and ensure that we're taking into account the public comments and also concerns in relation to this. So this is right up there in terms of priorities, but I want to make sure that whatever we do here, we do it right. Thank you.
Middleton.
Mr Speaker, the Minister will agree that Mobuoy is a scandal and one which sadly has went unaddressed for far too long. What assurances can the Minister give to the local residents of the area who unfortunately continue to live with obviously this illegal dump, but continue to deal with illegal dumping within and outside that very site? So what assurance can he give to the members of the public who have been waiting far too long?
Minister.
I think the whole issue of environmental crime, which is what the member outlines, and the need for enforcement around that is an issue of concern, because this is a criminal activity that people are dumping, and what we need to do in Northern Ireland is to be able to make sure that we're turning all our energies towards making sure we're catching the perpetrators associated with this. I hope to be up in Derry, Londonderry in the next number of weeks, and I will visit the site personally to see those issues, and I'm happy that the member corresponds with me on any particular issues where we need to focus our enforcement upon.
Mark Durkin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answers and congratulate him on his elevation to this new position. Is the Minister, given that this is not just a huge environmental crime but a huge economic one, is the Minister minded to pursue a public inquiry? And given that his counterpart in DFI is citing the situation at Mobuoy as an impediment to the completion of the A6 and therefore the economic development of the North West, will he pledge to work with DFI to resolve this situation as swiftly as possible?
Thank the member for his question. There was two questions there. First of all, I would declare that my stepfather is quality manager for the A6 from Dungiven to Drumahoe. In relation to that, I'm aware of the concerns that this could impede the second phase around that. In terms of the public inquiry, I'm committed to ensuring the range of conditions in which the perpetrators of the crime against the environment and public safety, perpetrators of the crime are prosecuted and that public safety is protected. My focus at the moment is upon the immediate issues, considering the need for remediation, and I'm very conscious of the financial costs associated with an inquiry.
Stephen Dunn. Minister.
Thank the member for his question, and this is something very close to my own heart. My department seeks to improve water quality through the mechanisms outlined in the River Basin Management Plans, which also covers coastal waters. Before bringing the third River Basin Management Plan to the Executive, I will need to consider the outworkings of the Water Quality Review on Lough Neagh and the reports of the Office of Environmental Protection and the Northern Ireland Office that are due to be published in the near future. The primary sources of pollution are agricultural runoff and wastewater. I will examine how we tackle pollution from agriculture through measures like the review of the Nutrient Action Programme. The proposals will also include working with Northern Ireland Water to target wastewater infrastructure investment.
Mr Speaker, and thank the Minister for your answer and congratulations on your appointment as Minister. Last summer, as you will know, Brompton Bay, Donaghadee Bay and Ballyholme Beach all failed minimum water quality test and given a poor rating indeed by your department. With the popularity of open sea swimming and European yachting event, does the Minister feel, as he stated with Lough Neagh, that it could take decades to solve?
I'm very conscious that this is an issue that requires many departments to feed into it, and as I've outlined in my answer, agricultural runoff and wastewater infrastructure are two of the primary causes of this. We need to invest in wastewater infrastructure, and that's where I'll be looking to my colleague in the Department of Infrastructure for investment around that, and that would flow from the Department of Finance. In terms of agricultural runoff, we know what the actions are required for that, but I need support from the sector and also from finance so we can make the investments to address this. This shouldn't be like this, but what we've got to do is work together to turn it around. I'm very conscious that sea swimming is a very popular activity that people are engaging with, but they need to do it with confidence that it's safe.
I thank the Minister for coming to the Chamber today and congratulate him on taking up the new role. Would the Minister join me to meet with sea swimming groups in North Down to discuss the impact it's having on them when water quality does not meet expectations?
Thank the member for a question. I would be delighted to do that. I think it's important to hear their concerns, and the concerns aren't just in relation to the actual water quality, it's also about the sampling and reporting, so people are aware when it's safe to swim, so I'm happy to meet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I welcome the Minister to his post. Can the Minister confirm if his department is aware of any issues around agricultural runoffs or overflows from Northern Ireland water outlets into the Cotton River that enters the sea at Ballyholme Bay, Bangor?
I am indeed, and as a constituency MLA, I met with Northern Ireland Water on Friday, the Chief Executive, and I know that's within one of their plans, but Ballyholme Beach has been somewhere that's been plagued in terms of these issues, in terms of water quality, so we need to have a specific focus in terms of how we can turn this around.
Question number 4.
I believe that good environmental governance is about focusing on environmental outcomes and ensuring that we have the optimal structures and processes in place to enable us to achieve those outcomes. My immediate priority, reflecting the statutory obligation placed on the Department, is to secure executive approval for the draft Environmental Improvement Plan. However, I also want to explore options for strengthening environmental governance for the longer term, in particular looking at the benefits that could accrue from setting up an independent environmental protection agency. This work will need to reflect the changed landscape for environmental oversight, including as a result of the UK leaving the EU, and the role that the Office of Environmental Protection already plays, and how we could interact with the Environmental Protection Agency in Ireland. It would also need to take into account requirements in the Climate Change Act. I will provide a further update to members in the coming weeks on how the review of environmental governance will be taken forward, ensuring that it incorporates meaningful consultation and engagement.
Thank the Minister and wish him well in his new position. Minister, we both agree, and it's obvious from your response, we both agree on the need for independent oversight to call, indeed, your own department and other executive colleagues out on environmental issues, such as the one that we've experienced, the ecological crisis in Lough Neagh. Can you give the Assembly a timeframe for the completion of the governance review, and when could we see the actual process of an independent environmental protection agency happening? Because we've had many reviews but no action.
I thank the member for his question. I would like to see that review carried out this year. Obviously, it depends upon the resources within the department. In terms of then the steps after that, obviously there will be a consultation with the public, and then they're reliant upon executive colleagues to allow this to go forward. And I seek to engage with all sectors of society to outline the benefits associated with an independent environmental protection agency. It was one of the commitments, a new decade, new approach that needs delivered.
And thank you to the Minister, and I wish you well going forward, and hope to work closely with you, in particular on this issue around Lough Neagh. Just if we could get some indication from the Minister of what meetings you've had or what plans you have in order to bring the loch back into public ownership, as we know that this is one of the greatest obstacles to moving forward with Lough Neagh.
So I'm aware of the issues associated with ownership of the loch. I'm meeting with Earl Shaftesbury this week. I'm looking forward to that meeting. It'll be a frank and open meeting associated with that. I will be very keen to see the outcome of the work that Lough Neagh Partnership are doing. They have recently received national lottery funding to facilitate a review in terms of the management and ownership of the loch. So this is a twin-track approach in terms of my engagement with the current owner, but also the future options associated with this. I would say there's no quick wins associated with the issues associated with Lough Neagh, and it is highly likely, and I think it's important I put this on the record in the chamber here today, it's highly likely that the scenes we saw last year will occur this year. And to be honest, I'm saying this from a genuine place, I think it is a damning indictment that this situation was allowed to unfold.
Congratulate the Minister on his new role and thank him for his responses to date. Could the Minister provide his assessment of the effectiveness of the Office for Environmental Protection, and importantly whether the OEP has been fully funded to allow it to carry out its duties?
Thank the member for her question. As part of the environmental governance review, we need to look at how the Office of Environmental Protection is functioning and how it relates to Northern Ireland. I can see benefits associated with that, where they've called us out in terms of what we're doing, but do they actually have the understanding that is needed in terms of Northern Ireland? I'm not entirely sure about that in the review. Hopefully you'll be able to tease that out. Essentially, what we need is we need an independent body that can call me out, and that's something I'm quite keen to establish.
Thank you, Minister, and I also congratulate you on taking up the role. And I just wanted to ask, you touched on briefly in some of your answers around the benefits of an independent environmental protection agency, but I wonder if the Minister could outline some of those benefits for us today.
So we've seen in relation to a number of issues such as Lough Neagh that this developed over time. So what we need is an independent body that can have the foresight to call it out before it becomes a problem. We also need to have something that can guide not just the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, but other departments. The whole issue of environmental governance is an issue for across government, not just my department.
Count Corla and Coharges to the new Minister for Agriculture in your post. One of my favourite childhood memories is catching a fish in a dammed river running off the slopes of Slieve Gullion, but there haven't been any fish in that river for a long, long time. Has the Minister any policies to support the rewilding and the replenishing of our waterways?
I'm very conscious of the issues associated with the restocking of our angling estate as a result of the issues with the fish farm, and those are one of many issues that I'm dealing with upon coming into office. I would say that I've got over 150 requests to meet. I have an inbox which is overflowing, and there's lots to do, and this issue is as part of that. I would say that the fact we didn't have government for the last 2 years has had a significant impact, and we're going to see the consequences of that play out over not just the weeks and months, but the years and decades ahead.
Question number 5,
I'm very aware of the value and importance of the agri-food sector for Northern Ireland's economy, with agriculture and food processing sectors employing around 80,000 people. This is particularly significant in our rural and coastal areas. I was inspired by my visit last week to Roy Little's farm in Newtonards, and look forward to engaging with the wide range of stakeholders in the coming weeks and months to hear their views on the ways to help the sector to continue to prosper, as well as playing a critical role in achieving our environmental obligations. My department is dedicated to improving the sustainability, productivity and resilience of the agri-food sector in Northern Ireland, and continues to operate a range of existing programmes to support the sector. This includes the Northern Ireland Regional Food Programme, which supports the promotion of Northern Ireland produce. My officials are also progressing a range of new policies across agriculture and food. In particular, DAERA is leading on the development of a new cross-departmental food strategy framework, which presents the new whole-of-government approach around food to get better outcomes for Northern Ireland, transforming our food system for future generations and help position Northern Ireland as a home of sustainable food. I'm committed to working across government and other partners to address the opportunities and challenges which lie ahead. I look forward to receiving further briefings from my officials in these important areas, and will consider how these can be progressed.
Thank you, Minister, and congratulations on your appointment. Minister, can you outline for the House what progress you believe has been made to deliver a Northern Ireland food strategy?
The development of a cross-departmental Northern Ireland food strategy framework. It is a new strategic collaborative effort around food that will help to improve economic, environmental, health and social outcomes for Northern Ireland. A public consultation exercise was carried out in autumn 2021. A Northern Ireland Food Strategy Framework Review Lab involving all relevant departments was held in October last year, with the aim of testing the draft framework against recent changes in strategic policy contexts and refreshing the text as required. I look forward to reviewing the food framework and will intend to discuss this with my executive colleagues before consideration of its publication.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome the Minister to his place for the first question time. Could I ask him if he will continue to implement the farm support programmes as was initiated by the last DAERA Minister, Mr. Speaker?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the member upon his appointment as chair of the committee, and I look forward to working with him over the time ahead. In terms of the Farm Support and Development Programme, this is something that I've been engaging with officials over the last 2 weeks, and I will be engaging with them tomorrow. My officials have been working on the new Farm Support and Development Programme. The schemes and measures being introduced will provide levers to contribute to statutory obligations under the Climate Change Act, and with a firm focus on just transition. In June 2023, my department launched a timeline for the rollout of its proposed Farm Support and Development Programme. This timeline provided the industry with an overview of when proposed schemes and measures would be introduced on a phased basis, subject to legislative and business case cover. On the 1st of January 2024, the Beef Carbon Reduction Scheme was introduced, aimed at improving the efficiency of the beef sector and reducing livestock greenhouse gas emissions, thereby contributing to meeting the Climate Change Act targets. This scheme is the most significant new element from the overall farm support programme to be added in 2024-2025. Work is ongoing on the development of the proposed farm sustainability payment, Farming with Nature package and a number of other enabling measures and action schemes. I will take some time to consider the overall content and progress of the proposed programme and how it addresses priorities in the sector. I would add, if time allows, that I had a really constructive meeting last week with the Ulster Farmers Union where we discussed this, and I would say that this was productive, it was useful, and there was a meeting of minds in many areas. And I would say to those who have a perception about me that I intend to, over the next 3 years, to prove them wrong.
Given the importance of the agri-food sector to Northern Ireland, the Minister will be aware that there's some 300 planning applications from the agriculture sector stuck with NAA not responding at this moment in time due to ammonia levels. The Minister given undertaking that he will expedite and look into this as soon as possible to ensure that new applications and improvements on farms can go ahead.
I thank the member for his question, and he's moving ahead to Diane's question next. I'm very conscious of the issue around ammonia. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been reading quite a lot about ammonia. I have the KPMG report, which was produced by the sector. It's sitting beside my bedside. I've read over half of it already. I'm aware that this is a very complex issue. There's no easy solutions, but I'm also aware of the current situation which is impeding planning applications. My officials are working hard to address any issues in the system, but what we need to do is we need to move at pace in relation to this. We need to make sure whatever we do it correctly, so we're not back at square one. But I do acknowledge the frustration and the anger from the sector around this. I hear it, and I intend to act.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I too would like to congratulate the Minister on his first question time. Does the Minister agree that the agri-food sector in the North is an important part of the all-island industry and cross-border trade and supply chains that benefit the economy across the island of Ireland, and that, despite Brexit and despite the efforts of some of his executive colleagues, the future sustainable economic growth of the sector relies on taking advantage of and building upon those all-island links?
I thank the member for his question. As Minister of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, I'm very keen to work north-south, east-west. There's a lot of commonalities there, and the reality is that trade moves both ways. I spoke last Thursday to Pippa Hackett in terms of the south. I've also been in contact with Charlie McConlogue, and I've been engaging with Eamon Ryan. I've also doing the same with my colleagues in Wales and Scotland, and I've reached out to DEFRA. I've invited Steve Barclay here to Northern Ireland, but if he won't come here, I'll go and see him, because we need to engage across the whole north, south, east, west area and work towards our common goals.
Question number 6.
I'm conscious that, informed by the requirements of the legislation in place to cover decision-making in the absence of ministers, my officials took a decision that they could no longer rely on published Ammonia Standing Advice, also known as the Operational Protocol, as the basis for statutory advice on planning applications. This decision was taken following a very careful consideration of the legislative obligations placed on my department and in response to a potential legal challenge by the Office of Environmental Protection. At this point, I have no plans to reverse this decision. Rather, my focus is on developing a new ammonia strategy which will be accompanied by new advice to inform planning decisions. I am determined that the new advice will be evidence-based and capable of ensuring full compliance with environmental law. I also want to ensure that the policy development process reflects an understanding of the needs and aspirations of our agri-food sector, which makes such an important contribution to our economic well-being. In the meantime, my department has put in place an interim assessment approach which will be used whilst a revised operational protocol is being developed. The interim assessment, which is based on robust scientific evidence, allows my officials to deal with planning applications in a legally compliant way using site-specific advice on a case-by-case basis, and as I've outlined, my officials are seeking to work with that.
Can I thank the Minister, and I don't know whether to be heartened or sorry for him that the report is by his bedside reading. A couple of questions that arise from what he has said, and many of the people that I speak to within the industry are concerned that officials went ahead and stopped or changed the advice without the normal process of consultation. I would like to hear what the Minister has to say about that particular issue. And I am glad to hear that he is going to publish a new strategy. But in the meantime, what we cannot have is a variety of areas doing different things in terms of planning applications. We already find that within the planning process at the moment, and the Minister needs to ensure that there is consistency for the industry going forward.
The Minister hasn't time to answer the question, so I'd ask him to provide a written answer to Ms Dodds on that. Thank you. And we'll move on to the topical questions. And the first topical question is Mr McGlone.
Minister, I wanted to ask if you are aware or have been made aware of a build-up of a rather unusual sludge on the water surface on the canal at the Lock Gates and Toome Bridge, and if that has been investigated by NIEA.
As it was once said, all politics is local, and I am aware of those issues, and I've been briefed by my department in relation to that. What I would say to anyone who becomes aware of these issues is to report them immediately to the pollution hotline, because without that reports immediately, the investigation is impeded.
Thank you for that, and he has brought me nicely on to the next part of my question, and that is, I'm hearing from different people that sometimes, even though issues like this are reported on the hotline, it can be quite considerable some time before they're actually investigated by NIEA officials. So the question is, are there sufficient resources there? And if not, as clearly there don't seem to be, will you be making a bid for additional resources for NIEA?
So the focus over the next number of weeks, potentially fortnight, it will be upon putting those bids into the Department of Finance for the budget for next year. I'm very conscious that the finances is the key element which constrains what my department can do, whether it's in terms of grant support, whether it's in terms of education, or it's in terms of enforcement. So I'll be intending to make quite an ambitious bid to the Department of Finance, because to safeguard our environment, we do need those resources for enforcement. If there's any particular concerns in relation to those reports being made and not being followed up in a prompt manner, I'm happy to hear about them.
Before I call on Robinson, question 6 and question 10 have been withdrawn. So, Mr Robinson.
Thank you, Minister, and congratulations on your new post. Can I ask you, Minister, to inform the House what action his department intends to take to fix the agri-food animal IT system?
So I'm aware of these issues, in particular media reports at the weekend associated with that. I know that there is always issues in terms of the rollout of IT systems. They never usually go exactly as planned. What I would say to people is that if they have particular concerns, that they should raise those with the department pretty promptly so we can investigate those. I was briefed by officials, I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, in relation to the rollout of that. It was last week actually. I'm happy to hear of any particular concerns in relation to it, because this system is absolutely vital for our industry.
Thank you, Minister, for the response. Can I thank you for that answer? Does he agree with me that farming families and vets work long and late hours, have huge pressures regarding record keeping and various other requirements, and therefore every effort must be made as quickly as possible to resolve the issues with this new system?
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. I'm very conscious that our farming community is a key part of our economy, and that they are essentially, on a lot of occasions, this is a generational thing where people are putting long hours and a lot of dedication into the family business. And we need to find ways within the department that we can support that. I'm very conscious of the concerns around the need to use the system and the need for it to be responsive in relation to that. I will be engaging with officials in relation to some of the concerns that have been raised recently to see if we can find a way to ensure that we address those, and we're also more attuned to any concerns from users, because it's important we respond to those concerns.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and congratulations, Minister, on your first question time. You seem to be enjoying it, which probably means we're not asking hard enough questions. Minister, what are your plans to tackle the spread of bovine TB?
So I'm very conscious and very aware of the issue of bovine TB, and it was the issue I was briefed on the Saturday upon taking office. The honeymoon ends very quickly when you leave this chamber, and there's challenges around this because it's not sustainable for farms, nor is it sustainable for the department financially. But I'm also aware that when TB arrives in the farms, and let's be clear that 10% of the herd has currently been or previously been affected associated with this, the distress that causes and the apprehension. What we need to do is, over time, we need to get a strategy in place which gives a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for farms and for the businesses that are affected by this. So I will be engaging with officials but also stakeholders in the time ahead so we can actually chart a course out of the current situation we've got. I'm also looking at the situation in terms of the rest of the UK and Ireland and how they have approached this issue because the current situation is not sustainable.
Minister, for your response. My follow-up then is do you plan to follow in the footsteps of your predecessor and introduce legislation for a badger cull in Northern Ireland?
I'm very aware of those issues and also aware of the legal challenges that arose associated with that. One element of bovine TB is a wildlife strategy, and that's something that we have to consider. But let's engage, let's see if we can find a way forward in relation to this. I'm aware of what my own party policy is in relation to that. People will not be surprised. But as the time ahead as Minister, I'd be guided by evidence and science, and I would say you can't really go wrong if you're guided by that.
Minister, you're very welcome and you're doing well so far. You have a few minutes to go yet. My question relates to rural affairs, your portfolio, and can you provide an update on the Rural Development Policy Framework, which is obviously overtaking the Rural Development Programme? So basically give me an update on that if you can.
So I'm very conscious upon taking office, some people very often refer to me as the Minister of Agriculture, and I usually finish that sentence, which is Environment and Rural Affairs, and I think sometimes rural affairs has been second fiddle to the rest of the department. I'm very keen to see what way we can move forward in relation to this. The development programme is one part of it. There's also grant support associated with that. Also very aware of the Rural Needs Act and the power that has and whether it really does have significant teeth because it just refers to due regard. So I'll be engaging with officials over the time ahead to help us scope out what my priorities are as rural affairs and rural development. This is week 3 in the department. I usually try to get 6 or 7 hours sleep at night, and I will return to this issue later on this week.
You do answer my response, and I appreciate a minister that does actually answer the question. With respect to rural groups, a lot of groups in the past have received rural hall funding, etc., or micro grants. Would the minister look at that going forward, because that's vital for rural communities? There's very little grants they can get to keep operational. So that rural micro grants, I think the previous speaker implemented that. So if you could follow on that, that'd be great.
Thank the member for his question. This is something I'd actually have with officials to ask for more guidance on and seeing how we can progress in relation to that. I'm aware that the funding goes through and you've acknowledged the value of that, but with my department, money can go much further, and the opportunities and also the benefits to the rural communities can be quite significant. So this is something I've already got a query in with officials to see what more we can do. I think we also need to look at rural affairs in a wider sphere and recognise the isolation that can be felt, but also the sense of community and how we can actually band communities together, but also address the isolation that is often felt within rural communities. A particular challenge for me as Minister is how do I engage with them, how do I engage with the farming community most especially, so we can break down barriers and misperceptions and we can bring people together.
Can the Minister outline what role his department plays with waste management across Northern Ireland?
The remit of my department is quite wide and it also includes waste management. I'm very conscious that the responsibilities include strategy, policy, legislation and where funds permit, grant support. We do have requirements outlined in the Climate Change Act and also the Waste and Contaminated Land Order. This means that we must show more ambition and take greater action in relation to waste management. We should reduce, reuse and also improve the quality and quantity of what we recycle. I will be seeking to commence a consultation later this year on household and non-household municipal recycling. The challenge is to both convince hearts and minds in relation to this, balancing compliance with the law, financial, environmental and social factors.
I thank the Minister for his response, and I'm really encouraged by that. Belfast City Council is finally increasing the number of homes that receive household glass recycling in Belfast. Can the Minister confirm if he will commit to working with district councils across Northern Ireland towards improving their recycling rates?
District councils in Northern Ireland play a key role in relation to waste management, and I will be seeking a meeting with NILGA, Solace, ARC21 and other organisations over the time ahead to discuss the way forward. I welcome the developments in Belfast City Council in terms of glass collection, the ambition being shown in Belfast and other councils across Northern Ireland is to be commended, and I want to find a way that myself as Minister can support them over the time ahead.
The other day you stated you want to meet the Earl of Shaftesbury over Lough Neagh and presumably other issues. Will you be demanding that he return the loch to the people after his ancestors stole it?
There will be many issues discussed in the meeting this week, but the issue of ownership of the loch, if people think that's going to be the solution to the problems with Lough Neagh, they're badly mistaken. There's big issues here that we need to address. And we all have to face up to some really hard decisions, and I'll be outlining those over the next number of weeks. So let's be clear, Lough Neagh is not an easy solution awaiting itself. There's big hard decisions and also funding that's required to turn the situation around.
I urge you to make sure that the demand of taking the loch back into public ownership is made categorically to the Earl. Minister, what penalties do you think the Earl should receive for the mismanaged decline of the loch? If you drop litter in the street, you're fined. There cannot be an exemption of fines over the mismanagement and decline of the loch just because somebody comes from the land at our statutory. So do you think that he and his company should be liable for fines given the state and the decline of the loch?
So in approaching the issue around Lough Neagh, there's probably three tools we have. One is about education, and that's probably the one we need to divert to first. The other one is about regulation, and the last one's around enforcement. If we're into the game of issuing fines, we've failed. Now, we're probably going to have to move along that because some people aren't going to go with us, but I want to bring people with us in terms of how we can turn the situation around. But I'll be looking for the support of this entire chamber in terms of the plan around Lough Neagh. And I would say it's very easy to have discussions around Lough Neagh and say how the situation's appalling, but then on the other hand, when we actually have to take really difficult policy decisions to run away from them. Lough Neagh didn't just occur out of the blue, it occurred because generations of environmental misgovernance in Northern Ireland, so we have to recognise that Lough Neagh is an example which we want to make sure it never occurs again.
Ruskin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister and I welcome him into his new post and congratulations to him. A member has already raised about TB, but I want to raise just slightly differently. The TB Eradication Partnership has already developed a strategy to deal with the scourge of TB in Northern Ireland. Will you, as Minister, commit to work and implement their recommendations without further delay in order to deal with TB in both wildlife and farm animals?
So I'm very aware of those recommendations. And as I said, I engaged last week with the Ulster Farmers Union and I got their views in relation to this, and I'll be engaging over the time ahead. There's many different suggestions that are coming forward to me. I'm very conscious that time may not be on our side in terms of the budget for next year associated with this. I'm very conscious that the compensation scheme, the Secretary of State directed that we consult on reducing that from to 90% in the first year and then 75% in the years thereafter. I'd hope that we don't have to go to that situation, but we need to take some decisions very quickly to ensure that we can actually have sustainability for our finances, but also for farms, because the farming community is a key part of our Northern Ireland economy, key part of the community, and we need to find a way we can support it.
Thank the Minister for his question. He talked about the compensation there. Will you commit to not reducing the compensation that farmers receive for TB rector animals until a time when partnership recommendations have been implemented in full?
I can't give that commitment because I don't know what my budget's going to be for next year. That's the reality. So whatever settlement I get for next year will have a significant impact in terms of how we can deliver functions for Northern Ireland. I'll not be seeking to reduce it, but financial situation is something I'm very, very conscious of, and I'll be working with executive colleagues in the Department of Finance over the time ahead to see what settlement we can give. I'm very conscious when TB arrives in the herd, the devastating consequences that has. I really, really hear that. I see the devastation amongst the farmers' faces when this arrives. So we need to find what way we can do to support them over the time ahead. So I want to be the farmer's friend. People may not listen to me and may not agree with that, but that's what I want to do. I want to give them the support that I can, as much as I can, but I'll need help to be able to do that.
That brings to a conclusion question time. Members take the raise. We'll just change the top table here and we'll commence the budget bill. Thank you.